It's the summer! Video game releases have slowed down a bit before the big holiday season hits with some big titles, so we're gonna recap how great video games have been so far. These are the top 10 best games 2016 has offered so far. This is obviously a personal list. I've seen plenty of angry comments on our best open world games, best RPGs, best action adventure games, and it is totally fine if you disagree with my opinion. I just don't get why some of you guys get angry when my opinion is different than yours, especially when you haven't played a game that is on that list, and you instantly dismiss it when it could actually be something you're missing out on. And don't worry, The Division is not on this list. But enough rambling, here's my top 10. The Super Hot demo emerged back in 2013 with a promise of a full release earlier this year. It introduced a mechanic we hadn't seen before, time only moves when you move, which made every level of this first-person shooter less about taking cover and twitch reflexes and more about planning each move more akin to a puzzle game. The full game didn't confine itself to innovating solely through this new mechanic though, which pushed it into my list, with its weird immersion-breaking and highly engaging story. And even after you beat it, this game's challenge mode offers a few more hours of fun. Dark Souls is one of my favorite series, and I'm very happy to see it becoming mainstream to the point of a lot of other games drawing inspiration from it. Salt and Sanctuary is one of those games, and it does so in a very unique way. By making the game a side-scroller, it allowed the devs to implement a lot of Metroidvania, making this a Souls game with hack-and-slash platforming action, a mix that works surprisingly well. Alright, bring on the hate, I don't care. Naruto Storm 4 won't make it to a lot of top 10 lists, but there's no way I'm not including it on mine. I've been invested in the Naruto story for years, and Storm 4 covers the end of the manga. It was the first time any of us got to see the end in animated form, thanks to the countless fillers the anime series has. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt that they nailed it. The cutscenes, the battles, the emotional tone, everything was executed to perfection. Story mode takes you through one-on-one battles to 1 versus 1,000 as you control a giant summoned creature, and the changes to the combat system were very welcome. Now if only they gave up on the peer-to-peer connections during multiplayer battles, that would be the dream. I can see Overwatch being much higher on this list by the end of the year, but as it stands right now, I find it quite lacking in content. The game modes pretty much consist of capturing a control point or escorting a payload, which isn't even a new concept, so it becomes somewhat repetitive quite fast, especially because there's no sense of progression in this game, and no, loot boxes don't count. But all the heroes are pretty fun to play as and easy enough to learn. There's a lot you can do with different team combinations, and of course let's not forget the art direction that makes practically every one of these characters lovable in their own way. I just finished playing Inside about a week ago, and it's a game I can't stop thinking about. At the same time, it's very hard to talk about this to people who haven't played it yet, because the less you know about it, the more you will enjoy it. This is Playdad's game 6 years after making Limbo, and I can tell you that it's not just a better looking version of Limbo. They play around with physics-based puzzles, sure, but they also introduce new mechanics and explore them in very interesting ways. There's also a lot of weirdness happening, a lot weirder than Limbo, believe me, but in a good way I felt. It's hard to talk about it, you just have to play it. The reimagination of the original Ratchet & Clank is a great experience for newcomers and returning fans alike. At its core, it's a very competent third-person platformer and shooter with an impressive array of weapons that feel very distinct and can even be used in combination with each other for some devastating moments. But the game also switches up the action frequently with spaceship battles, hoverboarding, or slower puzzle segments using Clank, which makes gameplay this free-flowing thing that never feels stale. It has some impressive visuals with its Pixar look, each planet is gorgeous, which encourages exploration, and it's got a great sense of humor. Uncharted 4 set a new standard for action-adventure games. It's a very complete game with good third-person shooting mechanics, amazing storytelling, and although they're still very streamlined, the platforming moments also received some improvements. One of the big new additions was stealth, which brought more options on how to tackle each challenge the game had to offer. The big set-piece moments are even bigger, the character building is done phenomenally well, not only through the in-game cutscenes but through the constant banter between characters doing missions, making the whole package an incredible experience. This may be somewhat controversial, but I have no doubt that Dark Souls 3 is my favorite Souls game. I was a big fan of Bloodborne's fast-paced action, and while Dark Souls 3 is not as fast, it is certainly faster than its predecessors. But it also had what Bloodborne was lacking, which was the build variety, a great deal of weapons to play around with, and an actual stable frame rate when playing multiplayer. Along with the unique boss fights the game offered from the beginning to the end, the amazing world that we've come to expect from the Souls titles, Dark Souls 3 has a solid spot on my list. But it doesn't climb higher because of its legacy as well. Most of what this game has to offer, we've already seen it in previous entries. In fact, Dark Souls 3 references its predecessors a bit too much for my taste. Nevertheless, it's a game worth playing. Doom, baby! Doom has at the same time modernized and innovated the first-person shooter genre and thrown it back to its roots. Instead of taking cover, reloading, and do other boring stuff you usually do in first-person shooters, it encourages you to run, blast demons' faces with a shotgun at close range, grab a few health pickups, throw a grenade into a horde of imps, and execute a glory kill on those who manage to survive the blast for that little extra health, just enough to do it again. Couple that with smartly designed levels with hidden secrets all over it, and colored key cards which no one ever thought could be so much fun hunting down, and you have a great modern first-person shooter that kept a lot of its essence from 1993. The multiplayer, on the other hand, feels like the very opposite, feels like a bland modern multiplayer shooter that kept nothing from the Doom's roots. It's decent, but definitely not the reason why I put it at the number 2. The Witness. Another game that's hard to talk about without spoiling the experience. The Witness is a game that excels at conveying a message without uttering a single word. You're dropped into this world and you figure it out by interacting with it. You do it largely by solving mazes, but it would be unfair to dismiss this game as a simple maze solver. The rules that apply to each one of these mazes are shrouded with mystery as you start playing, but you slowly pick up this game's rules and realize the mazes aren't the only thing you need to solve. There's a logic to this whole island, the way it is structured, how the mazes themselves interact with the world, and what your end goal should be. The message that can be read between those lines is one subject to interpretation, but regardless of any philosophical ramble the game tries to convey, this is a superbly built puzzle game that challenges you, your perceptions, and your preconceived notions of what a video game is in ways that no other games do. That's my top 10. As I said at the beginning of the video, feel free to contest it, let me know what you agree or disagree with, and do me a favor, if you disagree with a game on this list, please suggest an alternative. Just like I hope this video brings to light or encourages some of you guys to try out some of these games, I would also like to know if I missed something major this year that perhaps deserves to be on this top 10. Click the like button if you enjoyed the video and subscribe to TGN if you haven't already. I've been Globku, thank you for watching, bye!